Hello, Void. It's been a while. No real reason. Just sometimes I do my recordings at night, and lately I've just been tired. So rather than stress out and try to pump out a bunch of these, I just decided to take it a little bit more of a moderate pace. But I'm starting to get to the point where I'm going to be forgetting some of these movies I watched, so I better at least get something out. Okay. So, a couple weeks ago, this was Shudder Trek 1, and it's a movie I'd actually seen before on Netflix, The Nightmare. So, this is an interesting one, as it's essentially a documentary, but with reenactments, and since you're reenacting people's night terrors, it's kind of a creepy little film. Okay, so, it follows, several people. I don't know how many it was off the top of my head. 4 or 5 people who have had sleep paralysis, and them describing what it was like for them, and what it was like for growing up with it, or when it suddenly started happening. And then they'll reenact what they saw when they did it by having like either some CG figures or some costumed people essentially act out the things, and some of them are legitimately creepy. This documentary came out back in 2015, now I want to say. Yes. And I will say it's a creepy little film. Just because this is, some actual happenings, and even though there's nothing supernatural about it, some of the weird coincidences these people experienced are legitimately creepy. And I will say one thing, it is not fair to have a jump scare in a documentary. I was not prepared for that, even though I'd seen this movie before. It had been years. I forgot about that. It got me. It got me good. And just some of the imagery is kind of haunting. So watching this late at night, when everyone else is asleep, it made the skin crawl a little bit. And that's not a lot of things that can do that to me anymore. So I did remember this being an interesting watch, and it was again, because seeing these people's stories, but then they put the idea in your mind of one person said he hadn't heard of sleep paralysis until someone told him about it, and then he started experiencing it and it hasn't gone away. So yeah, now I've got that thought in my head. Thanks. But yeah, it's pretty much going into potential causes as well as some similarities or how different things people react to it. Yeah, some of it's creepy. Particularly was one thing that kind of stood out to me was one guy who was having his red-eyed demon staring at him in his sleep paralysis, but then someone else next to him had a nightmare where she said she saw this black cat with red eyes whispering into his ear. It was her nightmare, so it was this weird what if there's a connection kind of thing. As well as some people having some interesting, what they view as either supernatural or spiritual happenings that makes it seem like there's like an oppressive entity almost after them, though it's just how they perceive their nightmares. It's an interesting little watch. It's interesting subject matter, and they portray it in a way that also does work as a horror film, which is it's a weird mix, but it works. So I did say I really did enjoy this one. It's not a very big budgeted movie since it's, just deliberately reenacting it, but that doesn't take away from that being creepy. So, yeah, this movie works for me. It's only about an hour and a half, so it doesn't overstay its welcome, and one thing I wish it would have done more is sometimes you forget whose story is whose because it jumps between these people consistently, and sometimes I was having trouble keeping their stories straight because some of them I kept confusing, but so a little bit more time introducing them or having one person's more coherent before moving to another might have served it better, but as it was, it still worked, and I did like it. From my notes, I gave this one a 7 MacGuffins. It's been a couple weeks, and I'm still feeling that it deserves that. I do recommend this movie. Yeah. So that's all on The Nightmare. I think it's still on Netflix. I'm not 100% sure there, but it is on Shudder. I don't think it's very hard to find this movie. All right. Well, I recommend giving it a watch if you're interested in the subject matter at all. All right. Sleep tight.